Hey, my name's Jonathan Clark. I'm sitting here with Francis Cormier, Urban Francis, and this video is part of a series of videos about a project that we put together. It was a techno track that we produced. It was produced in Ableton Live, and the track itself is called Hijack. Now, this particular video is specifically about the sound effects tracks within the project. If this is the first video in the series you're watching, I would recommend that you watch the overview video first to get a better sense what the whole project is about. But for now, let's get focused on the sound effects. So if you look in the arrangement view and you drop down the group folder for sound effects, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate individual tracks. And at the moment, this fifth track, SFX Sound Effects 5, has nothing actually going on it. It does have deactivated clips, but let's just hide that for now to keep it out of the way. Let's squish down that master so we have a bit more space. And so basically these sound effects, well, let's solo things and we'll just play. So this first sound effect, I love this. These all came from Splice.com, and this I think this effect really sets the tone for the track at the start. Now, when you've got techno with a kick drum, the kick drum is an all or nothing thing. You can't really, you can change the volume automation on a kick drum, but it usually sounds very strange when you do it. And so if you're going to have a quiet section at the start of a track, at the end of a track, or in a breakdown, once that kick drops out, there's really not, it takes a ton of energy out of the track. So this creates a problem if you're trying to make sure that you've still got some energy. But it also creates a huge opportunity for you to play some really subtle stuff, some non-traditional, non-repetitive stuff. And so that's exactly what we did here, is we used that empty space at the beginning to make it sound good. And so aside from that Sound Effects 4 track, most of the rest of the stuff is just either fade-ins or reverses of white noise. And if we, let's take a look at this one, Sound Effects 2, and let's look at our fades. Now, if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see that we actually do have some on-off stuff here. This one, is completely on or off, but using this one as an example, we thought that without that fade, it was fading away a little bit too slowly, and so we added this volume fade to drop the volume out a little bit more quickly. You can see that's happened a couple times, and same thing with a fading in because it was coming in too quickly with the original sample that we used. But basically that's it. There's not a whole lot of stuff happening with the sound effects. However, this is just looking at arrangement view. This is what you can hear ended up in the final project. If you flip over to session view, this gets really interesting because you can see here's our 4 tracks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 is, nothing active right now. But you can see basically the clips that we used in these tracks are kind of sorted up to the top, but we have included a ton of extra sound effects in the project that some people probably haven't discovered, didn't realize are there. And you can bring this stuff in and out of the tracks. All you have to do, hold down, hit your tab key, and it flips over to arrangement view. And you can tab back and forth, but if you bring it into arrangement view and then you move it to where you want and then you let go, drops it onto the track. So let's see what happens when we play that particular effect. I feel like this is going to be pretty powerful as it comes in. Okay, so we didn't hear that in the version that's been online so far, certainly. Let's try that again with without it soloed. Okay, so it's not very obvious in the mix, but you know, if we had to crank the volume for some reason. So that's only one sound, tons more to play with. Processing overall on the sound effects group track, well, we have a compressor, we're side chaining, that's about it. And if you want to learn more about the side chaining, we're going to have a separate sidechain video here shortly. So basically that's the end of the instrument groups in the track. And something I don't think we mentioned yet is that when you if you download this version of the project that we used for the tutorials, it's called Hijack Tutorial in the Dropbox folder, you're going to see another mix in there, one of Francis's other remixes of the track. If you go to his SoundCloud page, you'll be able to see that on his SoundCloud page. You'll be able to download it. You can also give him a follow on SoundCloud. So check that out. That's totally separate from what we've been talking about in the project so far, but it gives you another idea of, you know, it's a little bit of rearranging here, bringing in a few of these effects that are in session view, and maybe swapping out your absinthe for a different synthesizer, maybe swapping out a couple hits and samples somewhere else. You can really change things around and make this sound like a very different song, even though it's got the same framework that we used for ours. Okay, let's move on to our final video about sidechaining.